diagnostics play a key role? To speak about it, we have leading experts from the industry who will be shortly sharing their views around it. And without further ado, I'd like to now hand it over to Dr. Rohit from the Medical Affairs team at Diagnostics to take up the introductions. Over to you, Dr. Rohit.
Yeah, thank you, Khushbu, and good afternoon to all. I welcome all for the webinar on fourth wave and variant of concern. Will diagnostics play a key important role? For today's meeting, we have esteemed panelists, esteemed faculty with us. Today's session will be moderated by Dr. Ravi Gaur, sir. Sir is a founder, Dr. Gaur Patlab, New Delhi. Sir is also a principal advisor for SpiceHealth, New Delhi. Along with sir, we have two panel members. First is Dr. Bhawna Jain. Madam is a consultant microbiologist from Medanta Hospital, Lucknow. Along with ma'am, we have Dr. SOUMYADEEP. Sir is a medical director, Cordlife Sciences India Private Limited. With this brief introduction, I welcome all the faculty members and would like to hand over session to Dr. Ravi Gaur, sir. Sir, over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's panel discussion brought on by Voice of Healthcare along with the Team Cipla. I think this is probably the most appropriate time when everybody is in the, again, back to the uncertain phase. What is going to happen next? So today's webinar probably will be talking about, we have extreme experienced the experts with us, and the topic will be the fourth wave and variants of concern. Will diagnostic play a key role? I think till time, last 2.5 years, almost 2 years now plus, we have been seeing the diagnostic was center stage. Will this continue? And then I think we're going to hear the experts what do they say. I have with me pleasure to introduce Dr. Bhawna Jain. She's already been introduced to you. She's a leading consultant microbiologist, Medanta Hospital, Lucknow. Welcome, Dr. Bhawna, and I look forward to hear from you your views. I think audience will be definitely excited to hear what's going to happen next. Then I also have Dr. SOUMYADEEP, who is also a leading microbiologist and medical director for Cordlife Sciences India Private Limited. Welcome, Dr. Soumya, and I think I also look forward to hear your experience. Probably, I think two of you are right from the area of microbiology and really into inside the battle. Probably have fought across the 2.5 years, right from the setting up the first test of the PCR probably, and now preparing for the future. With this, again, I'll thank Voice of Healthcare and organization and the opposed all support provided Dr. Rohit and team to our next panel. Before I start, I think I'd like to say, with coronavirus cases rising in some parts of the world, and all eyes are on India. If the country will see a new COVID-19 surge, I think this is last 1 week we have been hearing a little more. Probably a place like in Delhi, I'll say the numbers of testing has gone down substantially. Almost like only 10,000 tests were done, but still the positivity was 1.7%. It's gone from 0.01%, 0.2 is come to that percent. So we don't know that's the right number because screening is very, very little, and of course, we cannot quote these numbers anywhere. But still, I think that's what is happening worldwide. So it's going to cause a lot of concern to us. During last year's Delta-driven surge, an explosion in cases over in hospital and testing labs in India that happened, and this situation, I think we have not yet forgotten. And we should not yet forget, we should be future ready. With spike in COVID cases in China, you must have seen experts have bought a fresh COVID wave now in India also. And they're talking about somewhere, coming months, a little more surge will happen. Then what is you could say the current scenario as of now in COVID? The good news is India has been recording less number of daily COVID cases in the past 2 years. Of course, the last 2 weeks or 1 week, you can say, has been a little bit of up and down in select geographies. The fourth wave, what we talk about, is the COVID wave. Now, do India need to worry? I think that's the biggest question mark, and that's what we'll discuss today. The fourth wave is, as is one of the, can say, Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur has suggested that we may start around middle of June and probably peak from there to late of August, a modeling study which has been done by the researcher. The study has actually used a statistical model to make the prediction, finding that a possible new wave will last for 4 months. Studies also suggest that severity of the fourth wave will depend on the emergence of possible new coronavirus variant, and of course, very influenced by by the vaccination status across India. I think India has done a wonderful job, let me see, when it comes to corona, by vaccinating almost every possible people in a short spot of time. However, the researchers have also noted that there's always a fair chance that possible new variant of coronavirus may have an intense impact on the whole analysis. Variants can come and whole analysis goes for a fix. Impact will again depend on various factors like variants, infectability, fatality, and so on and so. Apart from the fact that the effect of vaccination, first, second, and booster doses may also play a significant role in the possibility of infection, degree of infection, and various issues related to the fourth wave. Now, officials at the World Health Organization recently have warned that Omicron may not be the last COVID variant, and the next strain could be more contagious. The next variant of concern will be more fit, probably. And what I mean, perhaps more fit, that it will be more transmissible because it will have to overtake what is currently circulating. So I think that's a warning which is getting from the World Health Organization. Now, lately, XE variant of coronavirus surfaces at Maharashtra and Gujarat. A fresh scare of new wave of infections has left people worried. Now, XE is a combination of prevalent Omicron variants, I think BA1 and BA2, which makes it even more infectious than Omicron. While this means that variant will spread faster than the previous Omicron strain and infect more people than before, experts say that ever since its discovery, which happened in UK earlier this year, XE appears to be mild. So it's not a worry, but definitely a concern. No doubt about it. Now, experts again have warned that, again, letting the guard down today. We should not, take it lightly and advise people to continue to follow the appropriate COVID behaviors. Now, what is XE variant? Why viruses recombine? What leads to the birth of new variant? Can it cause the variant on fresh wave? And the road ahead. I think this is what we're going to be discussing today. There are two leading experts with us, Dr. Bhawna and Dr. SOUMYADEEP. So with this, I'll move on to my first question to Dr. Bhawna. Dr. Bhawna, based on the current increase in the COVID-19 cases in several parts of the world, and India is it at the risk of fourth wave? Now, I think I'd like to understand from your mindset. You have probably seen the entire journey. And what is going to be? Where do we stand today, Dr. Bhawna?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. So let's start with the most burning. I will say the most burning topic of present debate. That is the fourth wave. Whether it is going to affect the Indians or not, that is our first prime concern right now. So basically, what we understand by wave means that the infection which will be in the significant amount in today's population, right? So that way, we'll consider the wave only that. Now, if we see the present scenario globally, what we find that presently we are having Omicron variant, and in Omicron, we are having the BA2, 2.2. India has already faced or already gone through the BA1 variant, Omicron BA1. Already we have faced that and we have survived that. So if we see what is the difference between BA1 and BA2, then only we'll be able to find out the right answer, whether we'll be having the fourth wave or not. Basically, the BA2, it is having the more different type of amino acids in comparison to BA1, which will definitely cause the change in the prevalent variant, first of all. Secondly, this variant is known to have more transmission, like it is more transmissible in comparison to the BA1. Third thing is the immunity. Whatever immunity we are having right now, that immunity is against BA 1.1. And the primitive studies in general population says that this immunity should be sufficient enough to prevent this BA 2.2 to affect the large population. But yes, there are cases there are cases of reinfection of BA 2.2 in those who are already having the immunity against BA 1. So we cannot deny the possibility of fourth wave also. That is true, as Dr. Gaur has said, that vaccine coverage is very nice, very wide vaccine coverage is there in India. Like 98% of the adult population has already received the first dose, and almost 83% have got of adult population have got the second dose also. So if we see that point of view, from that point of view, then definitely we are in a better position because we have got enough immunity to fight with this variant, if at all, if it comes and if it causes the havoc. So we are having the enough immunity. But obviously, the main point will be the preventive measures what we are going to take, and whatever the guards the government or anybody is being advocated, like the use of mask, use of sanitizer, use of hand hygiene. So the basic sense of sanitation is the utmost important thing, which will prevent the fourth wave. But yeah, the possibility is definitely there because this variant is different from the 2.2 from the 1.1, and it is more transmissible. So there is a possibility of fourth wave, which will affect our population.
Okay, I think that's nicely, summarized. Like, we should be ready with the fourth wave, and but we should not we are geared up to face the fourth wave. I think that's very important part. Like, and in the lighter mood, when we, before COVID, I think when we used to always talk about waves, we always linked it with the ocean, a lovely place. Why not? We look forward to the waves out there. But I think now, I think last 2.5 years, everybody talks about wave. We just get scared. Oh, I should not come up again. That's something which is now, that's the biggest problem and concern today. And that is what we like any wave, I think we're a little scared now. And we feel that, whatever happened probably is over. At some time, wave should stop. And that's a concern today. I think I'll come to Dr. SOUMYADEEP on this. Firstly, these variants we're talking about. So many variants we were talking about. So what is like, the variant? And now, in fact, we had 1, 2, 3, Delta, Omicron, and we're talking about Delta-grown variant, and probably much more. Like, what's your comment on this Delta-grown variant? What is it, and how is it going to be impacting over this?
Right. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Dr. Gaur. Good afternoon, Dr. Jain. Yes, actually, this is a very pertinent question. What we actually have to realize under the current scenario, what the thing that we are dealing with. Now, severe respiratory, this particular virus, right? SARS virus, the coronavirus. This particular structure is actually inside has structural changes, and it also has spikes. Now, if you are concerned about the structural protein and the spike protein, there can have several mutations. As Dr. Jain was actually correctly mentioning, there were structural mutations, right? Now, this particular mutations can happen either on the main core subject structure, or it can happen on the particular spike. Now, in our molecular biology, we do have Pango classification. According to Pango classification and according to the structural genomic analysis, there can be, because more importantly, because inside of it is an RNA. Now, RNA does mutate. Now we have an Omicron variant, amongst which there is a BA 1.1, then 1.2, and several others will follow. XC, XD, XC, these will also initially follow because it is nothing but a recombination of BA 1.1 and 1.2. 1.2 was later known as a stealth variant. So basically coming down to basics, because it is an RNA virus and all, I'm not going to the hypothetical variations of how it was engineered, whether it's a natural variant. I'm not going into those things. But by definition, historically proven also, because it's an RNA virus and because of the structural mutations, it is definitely possible going forward we'll have more and more variations. Now what we are actually concerned is about the XC and future there are few cases diagnosed in United Kingdom for XD. These things will follow because this is nothing but a structural change. Now whether now the point is in the structural mutations, whether it will be a mixture of a delta and an omicron BA.1.1 or a BA.1.1 and 1.2 that gave rise to XD, that remains to be seen. Now we really don't know as of now, because because basically according to Nature articles also, these things evolve. Correct. Now, whether in coming times in the month of July, as the IIT Kanpur model has predicted, we'll actually have a fourth wave. Now that will be resulting because of an XD or XE or maybe a Delta Cron, as we were predicting, which will have more transmissibility and resulting in more morbidity and mortality. That remains to be seen. But yes, definitely what we can do is, keep ourselves safe. That is number one. And we really hope, because Dr. Jain was again correctly mentioning the vaccination perspective, that, the T cell evasion. Okay, even if we are not, even if we are all vaccinated, but then the antibody quantity amongst us, how much it is, that remains to be seen.
Thank you. I think you rightly put across that probably should be ready for many variants. Number one, variants are going to be there, and that's something which is definitely going to be a challenge today. And when it comes to the only thing is probably what we've seen is like the Delta, which was very had actually a huge surge, and I think all of us probably I'd say, has had some kind of a hardship and suffering. Probably everybody suffered across the globe, not only India, of Delta. Omicron was a milder version. Hope here is probably the XE or maybe BA2 or BA3, BA4, future variant concern should be milder, but variants are going to be there. I think that's what I'm saying. Probably when we talk about COVID going away, probably I'd say it's not going to go away. It'll probably fade away. Probably this is, I think, gradually going to move out from the way it is. Thank you. We'll come back to you, Dr. Sumit, again. My next question probably I'll ask now. A lot of people are talking about, let's say, Omicron. I think when after Delta there was a lull phase and people felt that, oh no, we are almost out of it. But although we were ready, because we learned lessons from the Delta surge. So it's at that time it came, it was like people were like, oh Omicron, but that later on became Omicron. Like that's something which has happened. That kind of surge probably. So currently this BA2, that Omicron variant is highly prevalent, and based on I think I'd like to understand from you, based on genomic sequencing, what is the scenario in India, and what is the emphasis of detection in the world? If it would be actually be offering a genomic sequencing at the public places, I don't know. That's a very debatable question. But let's hear from you, Bhawna.
Yeah, actually, Omicron can be detected by that method only, that is the sequencing. Unfortunately, though we are improving upon it, like we are increasing with the number of sequencing day by day, we are increasing that. But till now, we are not able to sequence large number of isolates in a day-to-day basis. So what happens is, like if we are getting any type of infection, it takes time to find out that what type of infection it is, what type of variant it is. Until then, it is already spread. So if I am talking about BA, till now we are not able to comment upon that how much, how many isolates we have isolated till now or whatever it is. But definitely few cases are being studied or are being recorded as BA2 in India also. And since we know the population density of India, and we know that, we definitely lack the basic sense of sanitation, or basic awareness is definitely lacking. So we can assume that if we are reporting any case, then there might be so many other cases also which we are not able to find out right now. So there is a risk of BA2 variant in India as well. And definitely there are, since it is highly transmissible, so it may be spreading like anything, which we are not able to capture right now.
I think what you really said, that sequencing has been done, but not to that number, because I think sequencing would have definitely helped us to find out the detection, the virulent effect, probably the nature of the virus
Yeah,
to behave.
if we are talking about the sub-lineages of Omicron viruses, then definitely we have to depend upon the sequencing only, and that is the most advanced technique right now. We have.
I think in India probably we have not even the thing. Sequencing is a little expensive. It's not available everywhere, and there is a big numbers probably. So we have not yet done, but they're done sufficient enough to probably understand the nature, but probably a lot more need to be done right there. And maybe when it comes to the offering to general public, any patient who's admitted, whether it's a Omicron or Delta or a subvariant, I think that's going to be probably take time. Future sequencing will all take time.
Yeah.
With this, I think my next question goes to SOUMYADEEP. When sequencing is one of the, of course, ideal kind of thing, but what are the currently used diagnostic tests or RT-PCR tests which can detect Omicron and its sub-lineage variant? Because I think they're totally dependent on RT-PCR. What are the currently used technologies? Anything? Because at least something is better than nothing.
So basically, under the current scenario, even what we saw in the last third wave that we actually faced, PCR in particular aspects, we were actually facing a few issues where there are certain tests because of the S gene. Either it was a dropout or it was an S gene deletion. In normal two gene detection PCR kits, we were actually either detecting RDRP genomes, or we were detecting ORF1s. But the S particular gene PCR we were actually skipping out. Either of them not present, the PCRs would have been negative. But actually, even if an asymptomatic patient, as Omicron usually presents even nowadays, both with BA1, BA2, the stealth variant, also going forward XC, the S particular gene detection would actually be very important. I believe there are certain companies who has kits for S gene. Going forward, not at all. Going forward, there are also tests like BioFire from BioMedu. Their particular detection of the upper respiratory or lower respiratory tract panels, they do have the detection kit which is enabled with AI with S gene automatically embedded into it. So these are a few techniques. But however, going forward, it will be difficult because of the particular case presentation of the Omicron. If it is asymptomatic, if there are generalized flu-like behavior, then in a large majority, even the physicians do prefer not to test, screen it at home, 7 days precaution, and then you can go out. Because the moment the transmissibility is more, but the morbidity and mortality is on the lesser side, automatically it weakens the position of the virus. But epidemiologically speaking, genomic sequencing is the only method by which we can actually denote what is the percentage of BA 1.1, 2 and other variants. Number one. But number two, PCR is the gold standard, and it will remain the gold standard going forward, even if there are other methodologies of, the way we treat, breath analyzer testing of PCRs. That is also feasible, but that is VOC, but the precision is not very good. It is limited, I would rather say. It is not very good, would be an understatement. So that is it. But however, PCRs, but especially with certain company kits which has basically 3 genome detection, that is basically more effective in detection of the particular virus.
Okay, thank you, SOUMYADEEP. I think probably you rightly said RT-PCR is going to be the gold standard, and it is going to be there in any case. But yes, I think with the the new technology like BioFire, of course, already have respiratory panels and other panels. It's got you can do COVID right inside that. Probably like the bigger institutions and higher institutions already started using it. But I think when it comes to the public use, probably it's going to take time. But yes, from the clinical point of mind, because maybe the clinician would say this is COVID, I have to treat, protocol has to be similar. but from the patient point of view, or even from the prognostic point of view, or planning their direction of treatment, how many days of stay and isolation, I think the subtyping or whether it's Omicron, Delta, or something, would play some role, an important role. Probably that's going to time is going to be a little more time. Probably it'll come. Probably it's going to take some time.
Yes, epidemiologically, it is going to be of huge benefit to us, and automatically it will also shape our treatment protocols for physicians, clinicians, and also infectious disease personnel, how to go about this particular thing, because a huge chunk of it is also correlated with the comorbidities associated with it. We've seen it clinically.
Perfectly. Yeah, that's something very important part. Thank you, Dr. Bhawna. I think I know what he's saying, it's a bit easy to say, like, one, we know that, morbidity and mortality going down, patients recovering very, very fast. And last 2 years, diagnostic is the center stage. I think we were talking about tests for diagnosis, tests to track, tests for treatment, test has been done to follow up. I think everywhere diagnostic has played a very, very important role. And they've become, we were actually being sidelined at diagnostics, but now you're the center stage to manage the entire aspect of the patient, the whole patient disease cycle, even preventive part of it. Now, will diagnostic, if suppose, I'm just a question, fourth wave, will diagnostics will play an important role in fourth wave when it comes, if it comes to India? I hope it comes, but if it comes to India. And any new advancement you're talking about, I think we've been hearing a lot all over, because breath is and sweat, saliva, anything for that matter. So what is going to be the role of diagnostic in the fourth wave? Will it change or remain the same, or any advancement? Any point of view, Dr. Bhawna, I'd like to share with you.
Yeah, actually, very rightly said by you. Diagnostics have been playing a major role in previous all the waves. So it will definitely have a major role in this wave also, if supposingly it is coming. Basically, what happens is, like in diagnostics, as you see, presently we are in a situation when we are having all type of diagnostic tests available to detect any type of virus, right? Be it like if we want quick results for an emergency patient, then we have some antigen test, we have rapid immunochromatographic test. If we want to get some specific results, then we have RT-PCR tests, we have antibodies tests as well. So we have multiple platforms to find out the situation, the current status of the patient. In this wave also, we have got enough diagnostic tests to find out to detect the Omicron. But if we want to find out whether it is BA1 or BA2, definitely we have some flaws, like we are not able to find out with the present diagnostics, whatever is available. So we need to develop on this part to find it out. Now, if we correlate this with the clinical findings, definitely it doesn't matter to the clinician whether it is BA1 or BA2. I mean, since there is no specific treatment for coronavirus as such right now, so definitely they are going to treat them symptomatically, and they are going to manage the patient on the basis of their symptoms only, or their complications, if at all they are coming. So the diagnostics will help to find out the case as soon as possible, to find out the infection as soon as possible, so that can be, the complications can be curbed before getting it worse. First of all, that thing is there. Then epidemiologically, it will definitely have a great effect, because if we are able to detect a case, and if we are able to prevent the spread of that infection, that we are going to help a lot. So diagnostic will definitely have a major role in this wave also. If we are saying about the recent advances, so advances, what can be seen, or what is, they are undergoing also advances that will help to find out. See, whatever variant is coming, the main mutations which are happening at the spike protein. We all know about that, right? So the majority of assays of RT-PCR or other assays, whatever we are having, we are not using S-gene in particular. we are using other genes, like we are using N gene, which is the envelope gene. So we are using other genes to find out, they are to detect the virus. So that is not going to change. The virus will be detected. And for sublineages, we need the genome sequencing, and we need advanced tests to detect the sublineages. So that is not going to affect the clinical part of that. So that is underway. Like we are having so many tests right now. One kit in which we can identify the delta. If you are aware of that, that we have the particular gene, that mutation particularly, the 252 level pay. So we can identify the delta variant, and if it is negative, then we can straight away say that it is Omicron, because delta is not present, so it may be the Omicron. So we are advancing, we are getting better day by day in diagnostics point of view.
Yeah, I think that's what rightly said. But we are definitely advancing, and we have actually done a good work in last 2.5 years. I think as a heads off to diagnostics people, because I think we all work round the clock, and probably I'll say a lot credit goes to our policymakers and the regulatory authorities who work very closely with the diagnostic people, hand in hand to fight this menace and pandemic, and I think come out with a great success. At least definitely it appears to be as of now. The one thing advancement probably is like what you mentioned is rightly going forward, probably maybe putting some kind of essays which can give you very subtypings. Probably based on that, lot will be, because patients are very scared of delta, and patients are not really, because as I mentioned, Omicron become Omicron. So I think that's something which is really patient little. So probably helping the apprehension, planning, direction, prediction, prognosis, or even long-term COVID or complication. Probably going forward, I think newer tests probably have a little more of a information about the variant that's going to be, and that help out people. I think also important going to be the probably type of sample. We talk about swabs, nasal swabs, oropharyngeal swab, probably the saliva and maybe breath and something. That is also people are looking forward to. I don't know how much success that will be, but a lot of research has been done, a lot of work has been done. I think probably future is going to be something will come out very soon. I think that's with that we'll probably go to Dr. SOUMYADEEP. I think one like the all of us probably, and many of us probably must have faced the same question. But I had both the vaccines. I had got this vaccine, but still I got a COVID now. Like what do you do? What is the use of this vaccine? So in your practice, like you come across vaccine resistance, COVID variants, because is it there, or is the possibility of vaccine resistance? And then if it is there, should we have some kind of reports, steps to reporting the same, some protocols? Because this is like, any your views, please. So.
Yeah, so basically under the current scenario, what we are all very worried, especially in a country like India with diverse population, even with 98% of adult population being completely adult vaccinated, what we are actually worried is reinfection. Okay, so what are we actually measuring it? Whether this particular variant, whether Delta, be it Omicron, how will it affect? If it affects, whether I'll be symptomatic or not. If symptomatic, will it ultimately lead to mortality or morbidity? That is basically the crux of the matter, right? In a basically short junction. So basically, we can actually measure with spike antibody test. Earlier it was IgG and IgM. Later it was basically defined to be spike antibody test. We had a 250 greater than 250 level above which is supposed to be safe titer wise. But then gradually it was more felt like there are other receptors also, such as Th1 and Th2. These are the particular things, but we cannot really quantify. Then what should we really do? So basically, even in today's times, what we're actually worried is there is actually a study on a rat model with Omicron BA 1.1 and 1.2, where it was clearly shown that there is resistance of a BA 1.1 patient being infected. In all likelihood, won't be infected with the BA 1.2. Right? It's a rat model study, but then there isn't any guarantee on it. Whether it's basically T cell, whether it's basically B cell, or basically antibody protection, that is the only thing that can actually help us. But then again, going forward, I've seen plenty of cases in both our practice in lab and clinical practice. There are plenty of patients, even in spite of first dose, people have got the COVID infection. But then again, the myth it has to be broken amongst plenty of people that it is not the vaccine that is going to prevent us from getting the disease. We can get the disease irrespective of the vaccine, but the ultimate mortality or the morbidity, the suffering is definitely minimalized. And even if so it happens, it can actually happen because of some certain immunogenic reactions. Now, spike antibodies, in my suggestion, what we usually tell patients is, after first dose, you take the second dose if okay within the time period. If you've taken the second dose, within now we also have booster doses, but take it within a time frame such as time frame so that it matches. So suppose under the current circumstances, there are situations where people are getting COVID. Okay, even if they get COVID, maybe it's not diagnosed. So it is much better you take a booster dose and then be on the safer side. But everything said and done, ultimately, people have to understand that being vaccinated is a good thing. But then, mixed vaccines at the end of the day. So basically, B cells and T cells are actually going to protect us, especially the memory helper T cells. That is exactly what is going to help us, even going forward.
That's definitely, I think, body has to remember what has gone through, and I think that's going to be keeping them safe. That's
as
where
far as we can reduce the morbidity and mortality, the suffering. So I think we are good to go.
Yeah, I think that's a learning probably. Even we learn, and our body has to learn now. I think
yes. Just like you were saying, because COVID is here to stay. It's not that we can eliminate COVID some other countries, but so that's why we have to accept it.
Yeah, I think one thing which I have noticed, I think in current some states, I think they are getting when they're getting a PCR test done for screening or testing, they're also now asking which vaccine you have, first dose, second dose.
Yes.
Some formats have come up now, and that probably maybe they're working out something on it, whether the maybe still the analytic phase probably, if this vaccine resistant or vaccine not resistant, is working or not working. Probably a lot of data has to still be.
Yes, epidemiologically speaking, actually ICMR has mandated it in the SRF portal so as to give the vaccination status mandatory, and this has been there for almost 6 months to 8 months now. Definitely, it will help us epidemiologically and thereby making a robust strategy. As in, even if it is present, how many are first dose, second dose, and if it's COVID positive, how many are being reinfected. So that will really help us making strategies by policymakers.
Right. I think that's lesson goal. I think probably the message again, because I've seen many of the time these things are not correctly mentioned. Probably it's very important for all of us to send a message across the audience, right? Whenever you're filling up this, the questionnaire at the time of submitting the report, put up the information. What is the vaccine has been done correctly and information. That's going to help us out to plan our next strategy. So everybody need to follow that very stringently. That'll be a nice thing for us to do that. No, I don't know. I mean, I think when you're talking about this, like, do you think with the current, whatever learning we had, 1.5, 2 years now, vaccine has been almost there now, 1 year plus. Do you think, do you see any, very like vaccine resistant strains coming up too soon? Or I think it's still too early to say that? Dr. SOUMYADEEP, your thought, I'd say that.
Okay. So can you come again once more?
I said, like, what is your scene? You're talking about vaccine, the resistance kind of strain. But like we have seen over 1.5 years, I think a lot of, variants have come, somewhere vaccinated, people have come back. Do you think this, anything going by the learning, whatever, I think future is going to tell us what next. But with vaccine resistant strains, will come very fast, or is it going to take time, or will it not come?
So actually, the thing is just like any other hepatitis or such as tetanus, just like we kept on keeping boosters. So as to why it's basically not vaccine resistance, so as to speak, just like antibiotic resistance, it's basically more of the titer levels being diminished, or there can also be certain that there are works being held upon where vaccines are such as mRNA vaccines. Okay, the ones that we do not have have in our country, that will be actually more potent in basically sending across the signal, and because of the memory helper cells being actually more effectively immunized against. So basically, after a point, the B cells will diminish, the antibodies will diminish, but what won't diminish is the memory helper T cells. As far as we can, keep it under check. So basically, it is not, it's basically keeping the titers under view, or maybe, keeping in view of these certain things that, COVID ultimately would not die down definitely, would be an endemic disease in the process, just like even H1N1 flu hits us, or H5N3 hits us, certain times, definitely lesser. So going forward, COVID, in all likelihood, we all pray to God so that, it becomes an endemic disease going forward. But then again, what we really have to worry is, whether it will affect, and whosoever it affects, we don't know, because it is all constitutional wise. So suppose depending on the comorbidity, depending on the prevailing illnesses, be it an upper respiratory tract or lower respiratory tract infection, and when and how it will affect, and if it affects, whom will it affect, the mortality wise is just like a very complex game. So going forward, it has to be more of a booster dose administration, just like we take booster doses of hepatitis vaccines. So that has to be done, judiciously, and so that we all follow. I think that's the best way forward.
Yeah, I think that's exactly like, press all trigger buttons, take all precautions, take whatever scientifically advocated. I'm sure, I think, although the virus, in spite of that, has escaped here and there, but I think we should be able to take some control. If we control ourselves, and I think the way of working, probably we'll be able to fight it out, and we have can do that pretty well.
Yes. So as far as the T cell evasion does not happen, even if it happens, it will be ultimately be counteracted by the memory cells. So as far as we can counteract that, I think we can, save ourselves from an ultimate mortality.
Okay. I think thank you so much. I think just before I go on to the next question, there are some questions have been asked in the chat box, a question and answer. Any of you are free to write it down if it's there. Otherwise, whatever left out of time, we can probably answer that. You can just write it out, answers in the question answer box for the audience. Now, Dr. Bhawna, I think we have now coming straight away the testing part on the current testing kits. I think now, do they have any challenges for the reduction of Omicron variants? Your experience, because that's a lab requirement, probably in-house you're doing this thing. Any challenges what you've faced?
Basically, to answer this question, I think first we should understand what type of diagnostic tests are available in the market right now. Okay, so we have RT-PCR, nucleic acid detection tests, which goes by either RT-PCR platform, or we have cartridge-based tests, like we say CBNAT for CEPID and MolBio, very widely used test right now. And then we have LAMP for nucleic acid detection, that is loop-mediated isothermal detection test. Then this is all about the nucleic acid test, right? In nucleic acid, what we do, we find out the different genes. We detect the different genes of the virus and get it detected. Secondly, there is the antigen detection test. Antigen detection test is a bit, in the early stages of the disease. After nucleic acid, we can detect the antigens in the patient. Then there comes the antibody detection test. Antibody detection test is little bit later, when the patient is having a few days of infection, and then only the antibodies are detected. Now the antibodies, it depends upon the antibodies which are generated against what type of genes. That is important. If we see Omicron there is the mutations in this spike protein. So if we are using the diagnostic test, which basically depends upon the spike protein, then definitely we are going to miss upon that Omicron detection. But if at all we are using that type of test in which S gene is not being taken for the detection, then definitely Omicron will be detected. So we have different platforms for the detection of Omicron, and definitely we are facing like there is one study in which we found out that in case of Omicron, the sensitivity of the antigen test is lesser in case of Omicron detection, while in case of Delta variant, it was quite sensitive, like 80% of sensitivity was seen in case of Delta, while it reduced to 30% in case of Omicron detection. So there is challenge to detect Omicron definitely with the available, whatever available tests we are having. One thing which can be worked upon is the sample. What type of sample we need to take? Like if we are taking only the nasal sample, then there are high chances that we may miss Omicron. So we should take nasal as well as the throat sample so that to increase the sensitivity of detection of Omicron variant. So that is also important. I mean, the way we are taking the samples and what type of samples we are taking, that is also important to test the Omicron. So that is important.
Thank you to Bhawna. I think, we definitely, I think so much happening in the various journey of virus, which is, I think, a lot more understanding now we have, and we need to have different kind of a samples, different kind of assays, probably, the working on the entire the structure and how it's impacting all of us. Probably we need to have some better the assays which are like of the antibody, antigen, various kind of genes, what is mutation. Probably some more assays are going to be offering, and especially in the serology point of view, what we have today, rapid testing we're talking about. We'll come back to that question as we move forward. So I think we'd like to hear from you on your views when we come back to you again. Before that, I think, Swadeep, I think one question, which is I'm going to combine two questions. Are there Indian guidelines or recommendations which need to be followed for detection of variants, number one? And in your practice, what is the criteria? What should be the criteria of selection of these tests?
So basically, as per our guidelines, because there is one center guidelines and one is basically state guidelines. From where I belong, the state guidelines is very simple. As for there is Genomic. Approximately 6 months back, it was basically all positive samples were supposed to be screened after genomic analysis, and there it was very for all laboratories and hospitals. And there it was very, clear as per the genomic analysis reports, it was largely and predominantly Omicron BA 1.1. But however, then, automatically because the genomic laboratories are also limited, it becomes much of a burden and less of a, less effective if, the samples and the results couldn't be delivered in time, right? Especially if it is delivered after, 10, 14, 15 days, it doesn't make much sense. So going forward, basically, it became the positive samples, those with the travel history, or with those with, or those who has especially comorbidities, or those are really suffering ventilated patients. Those particular patients we could basically send for genomic analysis. But then again, nowadays the thing is those patients whom we suspect, who has a foreign travel history, vaccinated, old age, really suffering on intubation, we can send for genomic analysis. It is basically completely clinician dependent, and that is the way it should be, because at the test of time, because nowadays, as per the recent ICMR guidelines also, COVID testing at the time of admission is not mandatory if it is not suspected for it. That is up to the clinician. So that is why also basically, if there is a pertinent travel history, if there is a pertinent reason to believe that this can be a Delta, this can be something other than that of a predominant manifestation of of that of a 1.1 or 1.2, which are majorly not very symptomatic or maybe at home. So those we can send for genomic analysis. As a result, when it gets screened here automatically by the clinicians at the level of either the laboratory doctors or that of the clinicians at ICU hospital, ICU doctors, automatically the case load over in total, that becomes diminished and effective reporting happens. I think that's a very good way forward.
Great. I think the judgment probably still lies with our, though no definitely strict guideline, but there are a lot of recommendations out there, and I think
Yes.
we have just left it to the clinician and probably a history where you come from, whether you travel, comorbidity, immunity status, vaccination. I think based on all that, I think they are the best people to judge today, like whether should be sequencing should be done or variant testing should be done or not. I think that's the approach we are following. And going forward, probably with more analytics happening, the consensus will arise sooner or less. But I think ultimately it'll probably go back to clinicians only. They have to, based on the entire history of the patient, whether it's
Yes.
a travel history or the medication history, and I think that will decide what is the next step. Thank you. Dr. Bhawna, I think now we just come back because we have another 5-7 minutes only, but we come back to you. Today, there is the rapid antigen testing. Now, this is something which is like, I don't know, earlier it was 1 variant, 2 variant, 3 variant. What is the future of this rapid antigen test in the detection of variants? Because what is going to happen? We're going to go to the chemist shop, give me, 5 kits, 1 for Delta, 1 for Omicron, 1 for B, 1 for XC. What is going to be future? Or Bhawna, please.
Yeah. Actually, rapid antigen testing, though it lacks sensitivity, it has the issue of sensitivity definitely. So we need to work upon that. We need to increase the sensitivity of the test. First is this. Why we need to increase the sensitivity? Because the specificity is good. I mean, if they are detecting it is positive, it is positive. But we need to increase the sensitivity also if we want to be in the, in the market to do the testing and all, if we want to help the patient. Second thing is, like, it is very easy to perform. That is the reason why it is very much prevalent and why it is very much popular among the population, because it is very easy to perform and it gives good specific results if we see. Now, coming on to the variants, if we are talking about the different variants, whether it is going to have an effect on that or not. So, obviously, these tests, these rapid antigen tests are using part of the virus or to get it detected, which is not a variable type of gene. I mean, they cannot be changed or they cannot be. This is the stable type of unit of the vaccine, unit of the virus, which is being used in these tests. So it has got a good promise. I mean, they are promisable and they will help us in the long run.
I think rightly said, probably going forward, I think much more we're going to see happening, evolving in this phase, because probably entire spectrum, whether it's a rapid kit, whether it's RT-PCR or it's the RT-PCR or the variant testing or the sequencing, I think every kind of a testing is going to have some very role to play at some point of time here and there. This is going to be, because I think a protocol is generally, unannounced protocol has already been being followed for screening, first fever kind of a thing. Then you do this, then you do this, then you do this. That's already clinicians are now coming out with this. Probably the more the data we have, more we know what's going to happen, how the long-term impact of COVID or the resurgence of COVID or vaccines impact. I think with this, we will be able to definitely define a protocol at what point of time, where to use rapid antigen, where to use more RT-PCR, where to use an RT-PCR with the Omicron or variant-specific RT-PCR kind of a thing, and maybe further on sequencing of required. I think all this is going to be definitely an exciting phase for diagnostic people, and I definitely see the future right there. And it's there today, and it's rapidly coming, but very, very fast. Things are evolving very, very fast here. I've seen, I think most of the questions and answers have been answered already, and thank you so much for so many people about it. But I think now, before we close down, I think I'd like to have one quick comment from both of you. The comment on the future of diagnostics and detection of COVID variants in terms of opportunities and challenges for especially people, and the key messages, for the preparedness, where it should be, what should we be doing for our people. Let's start with the Dr. SOUMYADEEP.
Thank you, Dr. Gaur. It was a very interesting session. Thank you, Dr. Jain. It was very nice to interact. So actually, I would actually like to end this on a very positive note, saying that I was once looking at an NDTV show where Dr. Devi Shetty, I heard him say, since independence, we have always had a habit of spending approximately 5 to 10% of our preliminary budget on healthcare. Thanks to COVID, the whole scenario has changed, and we know how important it is that to actually spend on healthcare, apart from other avenues also, finance, FMCG, other sectors also, just like warfare and defense is equally important. So diagnostics is basically actually proven how it can actually be, earlier it was pathological laboratory, a part and parcel of hospitals and diagnosis. But how, it can actually take center stage and epicenter of the whole scenario that diagnostics has proven. And in going forward also, diagnostics per se, and especially PCR, how it has actually become, the top of the town, center stage, all out of nothing. Earlier PCR laboratories in a whole city like Calcutta or Lucknow, there used to be a very handful. And today we have PCR laboratories in every lane and by lane. Thank you for the whole upliftment of the whole science and technology. Now, once this is already here, we are already talking about TB PCRs, we are already talking about PCRs on ICV, gonorrhea, chlamydia, trachomitis, and other future products and other future things. And also aspergillus and other, so on and so forth. I completely believe that diagnostics, the center stage, the epicenter it is taken, that is here to stay. And just like any other, just like any other branch of medicine, laboratory medicine finally has a place, and this is not going anywhere. That is everything said and done, but at the cost of what? At the cost of basically COVID, which really did not help us much economically, socioeconomically, everything. So basically, diagnostics can help in minimalizing the damage, the extent of damage that COVID has going forward, frankly. And also another very pertinent point is early detection and treatment, judicious treatment. These are the two cornerstones of the whole COVID scenario, be it first wave or the 100th wave. These will be the cornerstone. So on a very bright note and a positive note, and hope no such 4th, 5th, 6th wave comes. Thank you so much.
No, great to hear that. I think, Bhawna, your point of view.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Gaur, and thank you, Dr. SOUMYADEEP. It was a wonderful session, and thank you to Voice of Healthcare also to provide us the platform to discuss these things. Very rightly explained by Dr. SOUMYADEEP, like whatever damage it could have done, the COVID, but it has definitely evolved the diagnostics. It has definitely improved upon the awareness among the public for the importance of basic sanitation, basic preventive measures which is required to be used, and that is definitely going to help in long run for in the prevention of different diseases, different infectious diseases like tuberculosis and all. So it is, I will not say that it is positive for us, but definitely it is having the positive impact on our life this time.
Great. I think I don't want to say that diagnostics have arrived. And I think we are going to be here, no doubt about it. I think it's going to play it's always played a very important role, but I think it's come to the forefront today. And the people, the customer, our patients, the clinician, I think all of us have put together. And I think more of a diagnostic people along the devices and the manufacturer and the reagent companies or the kit making companies, they have now collaborated very well with the diagnosticians, probably I'll say. And that's the future going to be. Probably one thing I want to say is like, I'm a very positive person. I think about 2.5 years, we have seen that the way the COVID testing or diagnostics have been tackled, I think from all fronts, I think that rapidity, the fast track, everybody has come together. And then I think this kind of a process infrastructure should be maintained. If we do this, I'm pretty sure that we'll be able to handle many tests, many diseases at a very rapid pace and probably eradicate them, if not eradicate, at least control them very, very fast. Because this is like last 30 years, we have seen so many epidemics, and many more are going to come. Probably infectious diseases are going to be, again, re-emergence is happening. So that's something. But I think diagnostics is there, and it's shown as a way that we can handle if the diagnostics are done very well. Thank you so much for being here, Bhawna, SOUMYADEEP. I'd like to say end before we end. The road ahead. These variants will keep on occurring for sure. There's nothing to panic about, as none of these are causing serious disease as of now. But at least the moment of Indian data, it does not show a very rapid spread. I think under check, under control, a happy sign or two. But as the virus is evolving and circulating in the world, there is still a need to continue masking, physical distancing, hand hygiene, along with one-time vaccination for all high-risk population. It's already happening, but I think we all should be telling people go get vaccinated as much as possible. And especially the people who are elderly, children, patients with diseases, and of course who are really, doctors and warriors who are facing it. So this is, I think, the future heading. I think you never really know what is coming for that matter. A small wave may be a big one. All you can really do is hope that when it comes, you can surf over it instead of getting drowned in its monstrosity. I think that's something what we should be looking at. We're ready for it. Diagnostics ready for it. I think all of us has done well. And thank you so much for answering the various questions and queries. And any other questions if people have, we can always visit the Voice of Health here platform and probably write a question. I'm sure the experts, both of them, will be able to answer as and when the questions drop in and come back to us. Thank you so much, Voice of Health, and thank you so much, Dr. Bhawna. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. On behalf of Cipla Diagnostic, I would like to thank Dr. Ravi sir, Dr. SOUMYADEEP, and Dr. Bhawna madam for very excellent and very informative sessions highlighting about all the important points and also the importance of diagnostics in the pandemic. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.